everybody. Welcome back to the How to Podcast series. Now, I've got to tell you, I go into Facebook rooms, I see podcasters asking questions about podcasting, and sometimes we get piled on by people who are very well intending, but sometimes the information is just not the best. And then I see this little podcast ninja come into the room, and her name is Steph, and she comes in and she gives loving, kind guidance to people. She's never pushy. She's always supportive and loving and caring. And I see her everywhere. I took a chance, reached out, and she said yes. She's here to talk about podcasting and from her point of view and her lens. And I'm thrilled because, again, I've been following Steph for a long time. And I just see her giving and never asking. So today it's our turn to give back to Steph, shine the light on her, and welcome her to the show. Steph, welcome to the How to Podcast series. I'm so glad to have you here.
I am so humbled right now. Thank you so much, Dave. I truly can't tell you how much those kind and genuine words mean to me. So much that I can't speak in the first sentence that I'm saying on the episode. So thank you. I appreciate that.
It is well deserved, Steph.
Thank you.
I'm not exaggerating. You show up for the podcasting community. You are on stage, on podcasts, in social settings, and just supporting people. And I love how you approach podcasting and podcasters. I model myself after the way you serve people. And if I can do anything close to what you're doing, that's a win for me and a win for the community. So again, I'm here to celebrate you on the show. And you are a great inspiration for me as a podcaster. So thank you. On behalf of everyone that's ever interacted with you in the past, I just want to say thanks. So, yeah. So I have my coffee, and I know your website's all about coffee as well, which is exciting. Tell everybody about your site, Steph, as we start. Let's start there and send people there so they can connect with you right off the bat. Tell us about your site.
Yeah. My company name is Coffee Like Media, and because I am obsessed with coffee, yeah. And so, yeah, thank you. It's too late for me, but yeah. And I help folks manage and promote their podcast. I can't fit into one thing because I can't just do one thing, because as soon as somebody starts getting their voices out there, then they want to do X, Y, and Z. And so I try to fill in as many of the gaps as I can for my clients. And in the other spaces where my sane and simple podcasting, audio, video, podcast, newsletter project, sane and simple podcasting, is I try for the folks who can't or don't want to work with me one-on-one, I try to get the information and the tips and things that I do into those spaces as well, so that folks can do it themselves.
And you've been podcasting and in the podcast space for a very long time. What was year one for you? How long ago did you start?
2017.
Wow.
So kind of long, but not super OG.
Okay, there you go. As you're joining us from Denmark, is this correct?
Yes.
Come on.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, how did you end up in Denmark? This is amazing.
The funny thing is, I am an American, right? I have a U.S. passport. Yeah. I grew up in the U.S., but I've never podcasted or even gone to a conference in the U.S. All of my podcasting has started when I lived since I've been living outside the country. So, yeah,
really?
I started podcasting when I lived in Shanghai, China, and I was podcasting about being someone who lives outside your countries, talking to other expats and so on and so forth. And at the same time, I started a YouTube channel about learning to read Mandarin Chinese. And so I had the two projects going on at the same time, because for the first time in my life, I had a good job that paid me well so that I could have activities that I wanted to do afterwards that I really enjoyed, and I just went and dove right into them. And so I had both of those going on, and then I met like tons and tons of other podcasters, because as you know, Dave, and I'm sure your listeners do too, podcasters like to talk to each other. They're super friendly folks. So then it just kind of snowballed, and I met tons of people and did lots of things, and I couldn't shut up. I was like, yes, let's go. Let's do this.
I love the podcasting community. Mm-hmm. We also just crossed paths as well on a virtual meetup with the UK team over there as well. And I love those people. The one thing I was really confused about from a Canadian perspective, listening to the conversation, they took break at one point. For me, it was like, 3 in the afternoon for them was 7 or something at night. And they said they're going to go put their tea in the oven. And I'm like, wait a minute, what the heck? What do you mean? How do you put tea in an oven? Isn't it on top of the stove? Isn't it hot water and tea? Like, I don't understand.
Was it a microwave?
Like, that's they call it, that's dinner. That's dinner. They call it tea in northern UK, right?
Yeah.
I had no idea what was going on. I'm like, I'm so confused, right?
Yeah. And it's an hour behind me, so they're all like rearing to go after work, and I'm like, I'm ready to turn my lights off and shut down the computer.
But it's such a great community, again, to have people from all over joining together, talking podcasting, supporting each other. They do a great job in that group. I love them.
Yeah. So
I just think that we need more community in podcasting.
yes. Well, and that's Mike's podcast club. You can find them over on Meetup, and shout out to Charles and Vic because they are they're fearless leaders. I agree. And I feel like there used to be, I'm going to sound so bitter, but I feel like there used to be more communities like that. And not as more people came into podcasting, but as more money came into podcasting, I feel like those types of communities have kind of dwindled down a little bit. And the other type of how to monetize and how to, do all those other things, I feel like those have grown a lot bigger. Yeah.
And then the idea, I loved events. Canada, we had Podcast Summit in 2024, back again in September 2025. It's out in Alberta, Western Canada. But the cost to go to some of these events for people who have a job and are doing this on as a hobby and taking holiday time away from family to go to these events. Sometimes these events can be very expensive, very beneficial. I know that you're really active in the community, but I think having these online events kind of help fill a little bit of a gap in the sense that we can still meet people and not be alone. So that's why I like Vic's group and Charles' group.
It does. Nothing's ever going to be the same as meeting people in person. And man, did that become super obvious during the pandemic when it wasn't even an option. But the cost of them is one of the reasons why I've never been to one in the U.S. I've started to go to the podcast show in London because it's an hour or two flight, and I don't have to stay that long. So it's not as big of an expense. Whereas if I go to the U.S., it's like jet lag time in the hotel and the price difference and all that stuff. It's just, it's a lot.
So we're going to kind of touch on some future topics about podcasting, the future of events and getting together in person. Where do you see it growing? Where do you see some challenges that we should probably think about for the people listening that do events? What serves the audience today, you think?
I don't know, because I haven't been to any of the big, I mean, I guess the podcast show in London is a big one at this point. I mean, it certainly did feel big when I was there, but it still felt very businessy. Like I think that's probably the closest equivalent to the podcast movement, Evolution's one, which is more industry than just indie and industry together. I've always wanted more independent podcasters, and not just hobbyists, but like anybody that's doing it themselves. Because I feel like that includes the business folks who are more than just the business folks. They're more of, the people I work with are business folks who also are in a giving back mode, where they're also like transferring knowledge, information. They like want to give back to the next generation. And I feel like those folks get lost in the only business-oriented, money-oriented podcasting conferences, because I think that turns them off because it's too much on the money side. I feel like there needs to be more of a balance between community and the money part of all of this.
Yeah, I like a conference setting where there's time between events.
Yes.
Where you're not running from one event, one class, one talk to the next talk. You got 5 minutes to get your butt down the hallway. And you don't have time to talk to all these great podcasters in the hallway. I like gaps. I like space. I like environments that are open for people to talk, where you can just have a conversation with the person next to you and find out about their show and build connections.
Yes.
I find like we kind of like it's like a conveyor belt. They just kind of shove you through the event and you're out the back door and you're done. I'm like, well, I'd like to have some more time just to sit and have time with other people and learn from them.
Yeah.
That would be the one good thing I'd suggest.
Yeah. There was an online podcasting conference that I went to. Lee from House of Lee, I believe is her podcast name. And she's one of the co-founders of the Asian American Podcasting Association. I think that's the full name, but I'll get the the full name to you. Her and Andy Wong started that group. And she had a podcasting conference where they did just that. They had dance breaks, and it was a virtual conference. They had dance breaks. They had mingle breaks. Between every session, there was a mingle break where they would, like, in Zoom, mix people around, and you would talk to different people each time. And that was just as not time consuming, but there was just as much time to those things as there were to the presentations. And I thought it was fantastic, but I've never seen an in-person event that did that with podcasting.
I think that would be nice because, again, we're coming looking not only for information and how to be better, but I think walking away with great new connections, I think that's always a huge benefit, I find. Because now I have a new podcast to listen to because I've met you. And now, B, I also have a connection where I can reach out to you for help or support or whatever. And I just think these kind of online events kind of fill in the gap between events as well, as a bonus to them. And I know some of the event planners are trying to do more, like moving the event around the states, for example, to do them in different spots, which are kind of nice. There's just some people I just think can't get to some of these events, especially maybe from Europe coming to the U.S. and stuff. Right?
There's also a makeshift one you can kind of do, and I'm not the only person that does this, but I've seen other people do this, where if they're going to a location, whether it be to visit family or vacation or what have you, and they just kind of put a feeler out on their socials saying, hey, I'm going to be in this city at this time. Does anybody want to have a podcasting meetup? Whether it be one person or like a small group of people, let's all just meet. And so that sometimes works and it sometimes doesn't. But it's a fun way to meet folks in a different place that have, that podcasting bug that we have.
Yeah, I like it. Outside of events, I know on your website you talk a lot about a future of podcasting and kind of what's down the road. If you could look into your little magical window or whatever and see into the future a little bit, is there anything that you're interested or excited about that's coming down the road that kind of capture your eye in the moment?
I'm excited that I think there's this research in audio podcasts, and oddly enough, YouTube has been part of it. Because I think there was a bunch of people that were really excited about like throwing video at their audio podcast, but there's now this what feels like, and this is the total gut reaction of what I'm seeing in the circles that I'm following, but there's a bunch of folks who are like, no, I don't want all of that. I want the intimacy of my audio, but I want the discoverability and the connections on YouTube and the comment section. So they're putting their static image videos, episodes, their static image episodes over on YouTube and exploring that in a way that's really practical for them and that fits into their workflow, their time frame, their budget, all of that stuff.
I have connected my podcast to YouTube, and I don't have a YouTube strategy. I'm not doing it to make money on YouTube. That's not my intent.
Yeah.
I'm just using it as a backup storage drive.
Yeah.
It's for free, and it houses all my episodes. And if something ever happens on my computer, I can always go grab them and bring them back down. They're finished episodes, but they're there. They live on, and my audience has access to it. It's like a Google Drive that the world has access to, basically.
Yeah.
That's kind of my approach for my show. I also use them for advanced listens. So if I don't have enough time in my monthly release for my podcast, because I'm at my max and I have extra episodes, I can do an advanced listen on YouTube, give my guests the link, and they can listen to it now, and it'll show up 2 months from now when it goes to audio.
Love it.
But they have a shareable link they can share with their audience.
And that's sort of what I'm doing with, I'm putting some like 15-minute coaching calls over on our YouTube channel, and I have to go through them one more time because video and audio are very different, especially when you're screen sharing. And I have to edit them for audio so that the audio people aren't like, now I have to go to YouTube. So I need to do that later, and I'm going to do that on my season break. And so I'm doing it on YouTube first, and then I'm going to pull them over into the audio form. And these are two examples, what you and I just shared, of different ways that YouTube can be used for audio first projects.
Yeah.
Or for audio loving podcasts that you don't have to be a YouTuber to be on YouTube. And that's what I'm excited about, because I have seen some folks who have gone video and they've gotten so that the vibe changes when you put these freaking bright lights that I hate and all this stuff.
Right?
And it's a different conversation. It's a different exchange. It's a different, if it's a one person episode, it's a different feel when you're just talking to people audibly than when there's all the visual stuff. And so I'm excited that stuff is kind of getting a resurgence.
And not every book is a movie.
Right. Yes.
So you don't have to have a movie with your book. So, right. And then you have like shows like True Crime. And if you wanted them to be video, they'd have to do like a full-length movie for every episode. There's no way they're going to have the budget to do that.
Yeah.
It's an audio format, and it's okay to be just audio in that situation.
Yeah. And there are podcasts that are really important information, but they're sensitive material, and you don't want that person to have their face there. I mean, that could be dangerous for them, but that should exist, because YouTube is a social media. It's a podcast platform. I don't care. It's probably both. But it's some place that people can be to be discovered by a huge audience.
I was looking on my YouTube studio recently for the How to Podcast series, and there was a new tab that I didn't see before. It was a list of suggested topics that I should do on my show from YouTube to me.
Yep.
And I'm like, wait, what? YouTube's telling me, please make these episodes. And I'm like, wait a minute. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh, yeah. And if you use even the free versions of like TubeBuddy or vidIQ, they'll even give you like best times of day to publish with your specific audience and all kinds of other information in there that makes it a lot easier to do it. Does it always work? Yeah. But it's, like any digital tool, it's making it kind of easier for us.
What else are you seeing future-wise down the road? What's a dream? What's a wish for the podcasting community?
I want more stories from folks who don't get their voices out there, because I feel like there was a surge in that, and then it went down, and a lot of the monetization craze came in. And I want more of that surge. I want more of people that I go, oh, I've never thought about that. When you listen to it, instead of a lot of the same stories over and over, or similar stories over and over and over, I want more and more. And stories can be in any form. They can still be an interview. They can be, in solo episodes. They can be in narration. It could be in any of the forms. I don't care. But I want more of the unique voices out there of people who are experiencing or have lived stuff that the rest of us don't know about.
We need more representation in podcasting. We need a broader variety of people, because it's interesting. One conversation I had recently, Steph, was with a person who has a very strong Southern drawl, a lot of y'alls and things like that. And they actually were saying, should I tone it down? And I'm like, wait a minute. And I said, I'll give you an example. I was on a call with a guest from Japan. This gentleman came on my podcast. He serves overseas in Japan on base, but he's originally from Alabama. And he loves a taste of home so far away from home in Japan. So he seeks out podcasts where people have the drawl that sound like home. And that just brings him back in the moment to his family and connecting with his community. So to downplay who you are in podcasting to reach a wider audience and make yourself smaller in the room, I don't think we need to do that. I think we need to embrace who we are.
Yeah.
And celebrate that, because there's somebody longing for that on the other side of the planet that is just waiting to hear somebody talk like you. So please don't make yourself little because you think that you're a little too much.
No.
Be you.
Be
right?
you. Absolutely be you. And it's like, that's the beauty of audio, is we get those nuances of the person, and that being more you makes it more relatable to more people, which sounds like it shouldn't exist, but it is. And if you're trying to polish up your accent or what have you, you're focused on that and not on what you're actually saying. It's kind of that stiff, like old-fashioned radio voice. And that's not really what podcasting is about. It's about getting your story, your personality, your experience out there as you, right?
And the idea that we have to fit into somebody's mold to be accepted, I'm all about breaking those molds down. I think we should be able to podcast who we are, how we show up. There's a quote that I love, Theodore Roosevelt: do what you can with what you have, where you are.
Yes.
It's the three main components to anything, especially to podcasting. Do what you can. What can you do?
Yeah.
as a podcaster with what you have. You don't need to get anything else. You have everything you need. Do what you can with what you have and where you are.
Yep.
Like where you are right now. You don't have to study and take like 1,000 courses and hire 1,500 gurus and spend tons and tons of money to get to the place where you could start a podcast.
Yep.
Do what you can with what you have where you are.
Exactly. That's why when there are people that don't have the funds or the ability to get a decent microphone, like use your phone until you can. I mean, phones are so good these days anyway. You can get relatively far with it until you can get something different. But I mean, there's like the rules are meant to be broken in podcasting. Like the whole origin story of podcasting is about breaking the rules and doing what you want to do. So, yeah.
And that's the gatekeeper that says, Steph, you don't have the right microphone. You can't be a podcaster. So we're going to ask you to kindly step aside, and because until you have this tool or this way of doing it, you're not doing it right. And I'm all about saying, listen, if all you have is your phone, like you said, then if you have a message for the world, why would you wait? Why would you put your dream on hold?
Yeah.
Start now, start building your community now, and then improve when you can, right?
Absolutely. And that's when people say, oh, I want to have a podcast, but I don't know what to podcast about. I'm like, well, that's the one time that I say, well, maybe have a long wait on that one. Because if you don't have the burning desire to share something or to do something in audio, I don't think you're going to last very long. It's a lot of work. It's a learning curve. And without that inner drive, I don't know how you would sustain it.
Okay.
And I don't know what you would be saying to people.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when I have people reach out to me, they're like, Dave, I want to start a podcast. I don't have any equipment. What ring light should I buy? And I'm like, wait a minute. Okay, that's a good question, but maybe in the wrong order.
Yeah.
What do you want to talk about first? Oh, I have no idea, but I just know I need to buy all this stuff. Well, who told you that? Well, I listened to a show and they told me to spend $4,000 on equipment.
Yeah.
Do you have $4,000? No, I'm going to put on my credit card. No, don't do that. Don't do that. No, whoa. Let's talk about what you want to talk about and who you want to reach, right? Let's talk about that first.
Yes, please.
And let's get past that part, maybe, and then we'll talk about all the other stuff.
And the podcast, why? Why are you doing it? Like, what is the thing you're trying to do? Like, there's always a goal of some sort, right? What is that?
Why and to what end?
Yeah.
Like, what is the goal in this? Why are you starting? But to what end? How do you know you're on the right path, right? Any path you take out in the forest or something, it's all mapped out. You take the red path and it takes you this way, green path takes you that way, right? You have a decision to make, but at least you know there's a path. If you don't have a path through your show, you're just going to start and aimlessly walk around and hopefully you get somewhere. I don't have a goal to where you want to end up. I think that's interesting.
Yeah. And you can experiment along the way for sure.
Yeah.
But at least know why and that an initial direction of some sort. Yeah, absolutely.
I want to connect with people and encourage people.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. That's a great goal. Right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So you don't break the rules, but have a purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to keep you podcasting at the end of the day when you know that you're heading on that path. The other thing I like on your website, you talk a lot about AI tools and things. I know that some people will talk, they're afraid of AI because they don't want to lose their voice in podcasting and become the voice of AI on their show where AI tells you what to say and you just read it. But there's a lot of great things that help podcasters in the AI space that I would love to kind of talk about a little bit too. There's some things that we just don't have time and bandwidth to do everything. So helping us with our show notes or titles, all those different things. And then there's AI tools that help us with our podcast editing. There's a lot of different options out there. Your thoughts on AI, where we are today, and kind of like what kind of recommendations do you have for
It's just a tool. It's just a tool. People were terrified of pens when they first happened. People were terrified of telephones. Every new technology people freak out about. I know this could be a more terrifying, horrible thing if the things that people are thinking could happen, but it's just a tool. And the people that make it are flawed humans. So it's only going to get so far. Yeah. But I'm on the side of experiment. Find what works for you that fits into your time, your budget, your personality, your workflow, all of those things. Yeah.
I think the other side of it too is it's actually an advantage to us as humans. When AI does come into the space, it'll quickly make a division as far as what was generated by a computer and what was a human told story.
Right? That's already happening with that product that makes stuff that tries to make a conversational podcast out of text. And it doesn't sound like a conversation, does it?
A deep dive. Let's delve into this.
Oh gosh,
yes,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so already I could hear people and I accidentally subscribed to one of them because I'm one of those weird people that actually searches in my podcast app for a topic, and I'll like start just downloading episodes and listening to different podcasts, and I came across one and I just went because it was the same two voices that was in all of the samples on that company's website, and I was like no. No. I have no problem with people who don't want to be on the mic putting a voice to their text, but when you're faking a conversation, that's where the line is for me, because that's sacred territory.
Yeah, I had a gentleman on my show, and he has a condition with his throat where he can't talk for long periods of time.
Yeah.
So he has an AI version of his voice.
Nice.
But he still flags it in his podcast. This is an AI generated voice. But he would not have a podcast if it wasn't for AI.
Exactly.
So there's huge advantages to that. We wouldn't have him if it wasn't for that. So,
exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, AI tools. I mean, geez, I don't think I could I can't summarize to save my life. So ChatGPT saves me there. It saves me with SEO stuff for my titles, my description. It saves me with idea generation not for episodes themselves, but for like focusing on stuff for my business, for the podcast, for life. I've learned to cook better with ChatGPT. I mean, that's not podcasting, but if you eat better, you sound better. So whatever. And the editing tools that you mentioned are getting really good as well. And some of them have like 2 hours or 3 hours free that you can use each month if you need some cleanup that you don't know how to do on your DAW. I mean, and there's so many good tools out there.
Yeah, and if you're nervous about AI, just the next time you're typing in an email and you get that red underline because you spelled something wrong, there you go.
There you go.
You've been using this for quite a while, so and you've been fine with that fix right there. So, there's some great tools out there. I think be cautious, learn from others, ask for other opinions, do your research, and don't make it replace you. Make it be an assistant to you.
It is.
Right? It can really offload a lot of things to AI that can give you your time back, which is great.
Yeah. What tools are you using, Dave?
I love Perplexity.ai. I love it because it does give me links that I can go deeper in the conversation and opens up even more information for me to do that. I'll use it to give me like suggested podcast title episodes and stuff. And then I seem to take them and kind of mash them together. It'll give me like 5, and I'll be like, well, I like that word, and I like this word, and I'll make my own up. But the one thing I find is, as humans, we only know what we know, and we don't know what we don't know. So I'm thinking I have 4 main points about this certain topic in podcasting. So I'll throw my 4 points in there and go, what am I missing from this topic? And it's like, oh, you're missing point number 5. And I've never heard of point number 5. I've never thought about it, but it actually rounds out my content and makes it even better. And I'm like, oh, I would have completely missed that.
Yes.
Right? So I like how it fills in the gaps for me. It's really interesting. And ChatGPT I use all the time as well.
Yeah. Do you use the voice function on the mobile app?
No, I haven't tried that yet. Is it great?
It's amazing. I have so many videos on that.
Yeah.
I feel like I've probably done too many of them, but I keep finding different ways to play with it. But yeah, you can, my favorite is when you have something like a challenge, whether it be idea mapping or what have you, is when you tell it, I need to do this. I need you to ask me questions one at a time to get to that point where I can finally do the end thing. And so it literally asks you questions and you answer them, and then it asks follow up and the next one and the next one. And then by doing that, and especially on voice, you're not writing anything, you're not reading anything, you're just having a conversation with the AI. And it's amazing how much freer you can just like go, oh, I hadn't thought about that. And it's just a conversation. And so many ideas come out of just the questions that the AI is asking me. And
so at the end of all that, when you're done that with AI, what do you get back as a result? Does it give you something?
Oh yeah, as as you're doing it, it's doing the transcription. So you can look back at anything. And at the end, you can say, do a summary of our conversation or list out this, make a chart of this, do a CSV file, like Excel file of what we did. I mean, you can literally tell it to do anything except for visualizations on the free plan. That one's a little wonky still. But it can form it into so many different things that can be useful for you to take away.
So that's interesting. So we can go to your website and there'll be clicks to your YouTube where we can watch these as well.
That would be organized. The YouTube channel would probably be better to go to Sane and Simple Podcasting YouTube. Yeah.
There you go. We'll have that link so people can go watch. That sounds incredibly interesting to me, especially for, again, solo podcasters who are creating their content from scratch. And you're sitting here by yourself going, there's nobody here to even talk to.
Yep.
At least now you have something to kind of bounce off of and get your brain working.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So what else is coming up for you in podcasting stuff? I'd love to know, as you're wrapping up for dinner here soon, what is coming down the road for you? I told you at the beginning, and I mean it, you're just such a great support in podcasting, and I want to see that continue and encourage you because it means so much to the people that you help.
Yeah.
Where are you headed next in the podcasting space? What's coming down the road for you that you can tell us about?
I'm in the middle of a really big case study on comparing what helps podcasts, motion videos for podcasting and static image videos for podcasting. And I've already found a few things that work for motion video channels that don't work for the static image channels. So I've failed in a good way on the static image channel. And I'm learning from that, and I'm trying to do more stuff there because I'm determined for the static image channels to find things that work for time-pressed podcasters who are focused on audio. So they can just do these things and have the discoverability on YouTube without spending the time being a video person. So I'm really trying out a lot of different things there. Trying to think what else. I don't know. I know it's the end of February, but I haven't done my year view yet. I tend to think quarter by quarter, and that project is taking up a lot of time because I'm playing with YouTube Shorts a lot in static form and in motion form, and and doing a lot of that stuff. So I'm not sure about the rest of the year yet because things keep changing on me. So I have to keep changing my experiments as the space changes. And
then for people listening, Steph, they want to reach out to you and they want to have some time with you. Is that an option for a listener to come and spend some time?
Yeah. There's a contact form on coffeelikemedia.com. They can just fill that out. And on the front page of the website, there should be a Let's Chat link in there. So they can just use that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. 15-minute call book here. Good. And I see you have a voice messaging thing as well.
Yeah. Yeah. SpeakPipe. Love that.
Right? I love that one. Yeah. It's an amazing tool. Good. Awesome. Steph, again, thank you so much. I know you have dinner waiting for you, and you've been so kind to give us time to be on the show. I would love down the road, as you have updates for us, to come back and continue the conversation and to celebrate all the things you're helping podcasters with.
And can I say one more thing?
Please, yes.
Okay, listeners, I know I'm not supposed to address you exactly like that, but I'm going to anyway. If this is your first episode of Dave's or you've only listened to a few, you have to go back and listen to many more of them. And I kid you not, my favorite so far is the how to be your own algorithm one. If you struggle at all with your marketing and your outreach, social media, whatever you want to call it, go back to that one. It is such a gem. And I'm sure there's more, so go back and listen to a lot of them because he's doing good stuff here. Okay. Sorry, Dave.
Awesome. Thank you. I have an upcoming episode, Steph, on the fact that if you want a podcast and you want your voice to be a little bit, maybe you're a slow talker or you're a fast talker, to talk at 92 beats per minute. And I actually put a metronome behind my voice and I talk at 92 beats per minute.
No way.
You can get a sense of maybe the speed of your voice.
Yeah.
And maybe if you really kind of tend to be a slow talker, maybe just come up just a little bit. Yeah. And if you're really fast, sometimes listeners get a little anxious because you're so fast.
Yeah.
Maybe just tone it down a little bit and just find that resting speed.
Yeah.
So I have a list of songs that are 92 beats per minute. Throw the song on and talk while the song's playing. And just kind of get the beat of that song. Shut the song off. And that's your beat for how you should do your show. Just kind of come in at that speed.
Oh.
It's such a cool little trick.
That is really neat. I love that.
So that's coming up. That's coming up. So there you go.
I'm going to be listening to that because I have a feeling
go.
I'm on the fast side a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great little exercise. But anyway, that's coming up in the future, and I'm excited for that one too.
Great.
So Steph, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
your dinner. And again, thank you for all that you do for podcasters. It comes genuinely, I really do appreciate what you do in the podcast space. You just keep giving and giving and giving. And if anybody has never heard of Steph before, then you've now heard of her. You will fall in love with her. You will love everything she does. And when you see her popping up in Facebook groups, if Steph comes in and answers your question, you hit gold, because now Steph knows about you. So that's my encouragement for you. If you see Steph in the Facebook group, applaud her every time she responds.
Oh my
'Cause
gosh.
it's great information. So thank you, Steph. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Excellent. Everybody, all the information for Steph in the show notes. Go and spend some time with her. Send her a voice message. Get in her calendar. Have some time with her. Share a coffee. coffeelikemedia.com. There you go. So thank you, Steph, so much.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast all the way through to the end. I love having these great guest co-hosts on the show to share their podcasts with you. You have some homework to do. And what I'm asking of you is to go check out our featured guest co-host today. Go over and listen to their podcast. The links are always in the show notes. And I'd love for you to go and give them your love and support. And I think if we can all do that for each other, podcasting will be a lot more fun for all of us. So it's time to do what you've asked others to do for you. It's time to do for this guest co-host. Links in the show notes. Go over and check out their show and leave them a review, do the follow, go listen to their episodes in full, the entirety of an episode, which again shows to the apps that it's a good podcast because you're going there and you're staying to the end. Probably one of the best ways you can help a podcaster grow their audience and be shown to more people is by simply going and listening wherever you listen to the very end, like you're doing right now here. This is the perfect way to signal to wherever you're listening on, this is a podcast worth promoting. And all of the apps want you to stay on as long as possible. So go over and listen to our guest co-host episode and leave them some feedback. If they have a buy me a coffee, send them a coffee. If they have a speak pipe, send them a voice message. If they have an email, send them an email. If they're on Instagram, send them a direct message. Do something to support our guest co-hosts. They've given up their time to be here with you, to be here with me, and we can give that back to them with time and attention, our love, our support. Thank you for doing all that for me as well. Here on the How to Podcast series, we'll talk to you soon for our next episode.